Good morning. I'm Robin Citizen, a programming associate here at TIFF, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's screening of Skin, written and directed by Guy Nativ. To begin, we want to acknowledge that tonight's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community today and every day. This film is eligible for the Grolsch People's Choice Award. Vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. We would like to thank ICM Partners, Maven Pictures, and Oren Moverman for providing us with this film today. Skin is written and directed by Guy Nativ, a multi-award-winning filmmaker, best known for his features Mabul, The Flood, and Magic Men. His nuanced script and rigorous direction are supported by a remarkable cast. As Byron, BAFTA award-winning Jamie Bell, Danielle McDonald from Patty Cakes, Oscar nominee Vera Farmiga, Emmy-nominated Bill Camp, and the peerless Mike Coulter. Together, they make one of the most remarkable ensembles of the year. There will be a Q&A after the film, so stick around for that. But for now, please help me welcome to the stage director Guy Nativ.
Good morning, everyone. So 5 years ago, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Tel Aviv, reading a newspaper, and I saw this crazy article, and I saw this montage of a man with tattoos on his face slowly becoming a normal man. I read the article, and I was blown away by this story. I got in touch with MSNBC, who made a documentary about him, and they gave me his email. I wrote Bryon Widner a very long email about me, about my Holocaust grandmothers and fathers, and how it's important for me to tell this story as a Jew, as an Israeli. He got in touch with me after 2 months, and he said, if you're really serious, come and meet me, and we'll talk about it. That's how Skin started. It's a long, long journey. My grandfather, before we start shooting, Skype with Bryon and gave me his blessing and told me, you got to tell this story for everyone to see. That was 4.5 years before Trump was elected. The backyard of America became the front yard of America. We didn't know how crazy it's going to be, but it happened. So I'm going to be here for the Q&A, for more stories, and would love to hear you enjoy the film. Thank you. Hi.
So I'd actually like to open the Q&A session talking about something you brought up during the intro. So you mentioned that you have a background as an Israeli with family members who died during the Holocaust. What did it mean for you telling this American story from a foreign perspective? And how are race relations in Israel different from that in the States?
Okay, it's really complicated because, you know, I lived in Israel for 40 years of my life. I went to the army. I did what every Israeli man is supposed to do. But when I moved to the States 4.5 years ago, I found out that Israel is no different than the U.S. We have it's a racist country, it's a problematic country, and we have the same issues that I was dealing in this movie. So when I started researching Skin and Bryon Widner and the whole Midwest kind of like fascist groups, I found a lot of similarities to the country I lived and grew up in. I think since Rabin's assassination, it became worse. And, you know, we also, like, I remember that we voted for after Rabin died, assassinated, we voted for Shimon Peres, and everybody was so hopeful that this will work, and we woke up with Benjamin Netanyahu. So that's what happened when I moved here. It was 2 weeks before Trump was elected. So I basically got my citizenship, and then Trump was elected, and I wasn't that surprised. The correlation for me as a filmmaker to this topic is because my grandfather always told us terrible stories from the Holocaust, and he took us to Poland and showed us where he lived and where the camp that he went to. I always felt that my grandfather was angry when he came to Israel, but he turned to something with more forgiveness, with more exception. And he taught us that the new generation of Germans and the second and third generation are different. And it was very, very emotional for me to remember him telling me his new, perspective, because this guy lost all his family. He has all the right in the world to be angry for his entire life. So when I read this article about Bryon, I went to my grandfather, who is my hero, and I showed him the article, I showed him the video, I showed him the documentary, and he told me, "Yeah, you got to tell it, because we live in a crazy time, but it's this tiny sliver of hope, of acceptance that we need to have in our hearts. I mean, we can be angry, we can be very active against those fascists, but we need to have one piece of hope, because if we lose this, we lose everything." It's like Shimon Peres, also my hero, always said, "We do peace with enemies, not with friends." So, a lot of correlations and a lot of stuff, but I felt that that my grandfather gave me this power to tell the story.
Thank you so much. I want to open up the questions to the audience. Yes, sir, right there. So in the beginning of the film, there's a scene where the police officers let Bryon and some of the white supremacists through, and the viewer had a question about the complicity of kind of certain institutions with these groups and ideologies.
Totally. 3 members of the Vinlanders were cops. They got information from the police in Ohio, and the police gave them information, and they went to places because the information. So it was totally correlation between the police, not the FBI though. But the police was totally corrupted there, and I couldn't tell everything in this movie, but I just wanted this gist that he shakes his hand on the bridge, and Bryon told me that they basically had this kind of ceremonies, like audience ceremonies, and then they put the uniforms on and went to the police. It's insane and sad.
Question? Yes, right there.
Just curious how Jamie Bell got involved in the project. Like, you approached him or approached you?
So how did Jamie Bell get involved in the project? Who approached whom? And also, just to add on to that, this is an astonishing turn from Jamie Bell. I mean, he's unrecognizable at the beginning of the film, and it's a breakout role for an actor with a career of breakout roles. So,
totally agree. Jamie Bell is a revelation for me too. It was, trying to find the right guy to play Bryon that has heart and soul, but he's not the cliche of like neo-Nazi, tough, like Oren Moverman, who is my big brother, had this idea to bring Jamie Bell. He spoke to him, he had a dinner with him, and he said, "Why don't you go and meet him? He's in Virginia shooting his TV show." And I said to him, "But he's tiny and he's a kid. He's basically a kid. How can he be like a neo-Nazi skinhead and tough?" He said, he said, "When I met him, I didn't see a kid. I saw a man, and I drove from New York to Virginia, and I saw him, and I basically saw Bryon, and he told me all his story about how his father left him, and also having a baby and divorced, and and trying to be a father at a young age. He has an old soul. And from this moment, when I told him, you can do it, he told me, why me? I mean, why do you see that in me? And I told him, I think you can do it. You can do it amazing. And then he worked for half a year on the role. He put on 20 pounds. He went to Bryon, got drunk with him, smoked. He said, he just texted me, he texted me from Bryon Widner, I'm having a heart attack. So much smoke, so much booze. But he basically every hour of the day, he became Bryon. All these tattoos, we did a test with him in LA, and he just went to the streets with those tattoos on his face just to feel how it feels to become Bryon, to become an outsider. So he did a brilliant job, and he was so dedicated, and I learned from him so much, and it was just an amazing work with a brilliant actor. I'm very, very lucky.
Yes.
Bryon and Julie and the children did not have easy life after that, because they had to live under threats till today. Everyone, the kids, them, they still live in different names in different locations with their shades down. They cannot walk in the street just like that. They always think that someone from the Vinlanders or someone from the white supremacy cult, I call it cult because it is cult, will come and will try to prove himself as a new kid on the block and just shoot them. So they divorced. They got divorced, but they're still struggling. Yeah, I guess that the drama around them was so hard that it influenced their relationship.
We have time for one more question. Yes, in the back. Were you ever contacted by the Vinlanders, the group in the film, while making this film?
Bryon got me like those contacts to two people that were in the Vinlanders, and they're out, and they're still like informers. So I spoke to two of the guys that were with him. The rest are either in jail for life or dead. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Guy, for bringing us this rough but very important film. Thank you.